So instead of slides, I've got a handout that everyone will key off of. So the Alzheimer's Association is a national association. We have chapters in every state. In the more populous states, we have typically multiple chapters. It's important for me to get the message out to you that we're here because all of our services for anyone dealing with any type of dementia are free. Our caregiver support groups, we have early stage programming, we've got a lot of free classes throughout all of Idaho. We've got a toll-free number that I'll hand these out as well so that your folks, there you go, sir, at any time of the day or night, if they're having issues with a loved one's behaviors or they need some information on legally, what do I do when I find out my loved one has Alzheimer's? What do I start planning? What documents do I need? Financially, what do I need to do? So lots and lots of resources out there. And again, getting the message out to you is important because oftentimes what we see, not at the fault of providers, but because providers typically want to cure things, they're working on diseases where they can say, oh, I've got a treatment, I've got a cure for you. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading killer in the United States right now. It's the only one in the top 10 where there's no treatment, there's no prevention, and there's no cure. So what I see a lot in my office is folks who say, oh, my doctor did a lot of testing on me and finally came to the conclusion that I have Alzheimer's disease. And then they say, we'll see you in 6 months. And the families are like, oh my God, what do I do? What resources are out there? So the more people that we can share that with, the more people, when they get a diagnosis or when they get over the shock and they're ready to reach out to someone, they can say, Christine, I need to talk to you. I need some help. I need to know what to do. Any questions on that? As Sarah said, ALZ.org is our main website. ALZ.org/Idaho is where you'll find all the lists of the support groups, the classes, the resources. And what I'm going to spend my time on is the brochure that you've got is called Know the 10 Signs. And again, the Alzheimer's Association really promotes early diagnosis. And it baffles some people because they're like, there's no treatment, there's no cure. Why do I want to know? Why do I want to tell my loved one? They'll just be depressed. Early diagnosis with any disease is super important because if I'm diagnosed, I want to know. I want to know, one, that I'm not going crazy. I want my husband to know that he doesn't need to divorce me because my whole entire personality has changed. I also might have a bucket list. I might want to jump out of a plane. I might want to go to Texas. Don't really want to go to Texas, but
whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I'm such a wild and crazy girl. Also, I want to get my legal and financial issues in order because I've got 3 kids, and I've got one kid that might say, if I wait too long so that I don't have the capacity to make those decisions, then I've got one kid that's going to say, Mom wanted this, and another kid's going to say, you're a terrible person, and Mom wanted this, and another kid's going to say, Mom wanted me to have all the money. That's all there is to it. So it's a gift to all of our families to get an early diagnosis, to do what we need to do to get that diagnosis and to get our affairs in order. And we have all different kinds of folks that come to us. Some really want to know, they want to be proactive, they want to start speaking to the world about what it feels like to have Alzheimer's. Other people cover up as long as they can. So for you, this brochure is a tool for you. And again, it sounds like one of the things that you're trying to do is assist colleagues in what, the statistics are staggering. In this room, there are going to be people that get Alzheimer's unless we find a cure. And that's my goal, is to find a cure so that I can retire. So anyway, let's quickly go through the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's. Again, for your families, for your friends, for your loved ones, for your clients, for your colleagues. There are lots and lots of things that are normal aging. So I have a pair of glasses in every room in the house because my eyes are going. Some of us, our hearing goes, your hair starts to gray. All of that is normal. Alzheimer's disease and dementia is not a normal part of aging. When we were younger, we would say, oh, grandma's senile. Well, we all know someone who's 102 and can, sing every song they've ever known in their life. They can recite the ABCs backwards. Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging. So there are typical signs of aging, and then there are warning signs. When we train people about this, and again, this is an hour-long training typically, we talk about the warning signs as not a reason for someone to panic, because I can have about 3 of these signs at any time of the day on different days of the week. What we talk about the warning signs is if it's persistent, it's something you might want to start writing down and talking to your doctor about. Part of the reason is there are a whole bunch of things that can mimic Alzheimer's disease. You could have an infection. You could have a thyroid issue. You could be taking a lot of different medications that are interacting with each other and they're causing memory problems or behavior problems. So again, if I'm looking at one of these 10 warning signs and I'm talking to my doctor about that, that gives the doctor, all the puzzle pieces to put together and say, thank gosh, it's something that can be altered or cured. Or after 6 months of testing, we've arrived at the fact that it's an Alzheimer's diagnosis and here's what we need to do with that. Okay. Any questions before we go through these real quick? Okay. So number 1, memory loss that disrupts daily life. So that's the key there. Disrupts your daily life. If you forget where your keys are, do not panic. If you get in your car and you can't figure out what the keys do, that's disrupting your life. That's a warning sign. Again, don't jump to the fact, because I work at the Alzheimer's Association, I always think I have Alzheimer's. I forget anything and I am panicked, but please don't do that. So again, so if you notice a colleague or a loved one who's repeating themselves over and over again, they're forgetting the short-term memory issues typically is affected first, and they're repeating themselves over and over again, that might be a warning sign. Memory aids are great. I have to-do lists in my car, on my phone, at my office, and those are great. That's not a warning sign. But if I look down at my list and it says Emily's birthday, and I don't know who Emily is, and I didn't write that. Totally different things, okay? Number 2, challenges in planning or solving problems. So if we all forget to pay a monthly bill once in a while. But if a loved one has lots of bills that are racked up, they may be having trouble with numbers. We had a company that I was at, we had a CFO. Numbers were his whole life. And he woke up one morning and said, I've lost my numbers. And that was a huge, huge warning sign. Sometimes this number 2, solving problems, things that used to be really easy, like unloading the dishwasher, all of a sudden you're faced with those clean dishes and it's going to take you longer to unload. Or you're not really sure if the dishes go here and that seems kind of fuzzy that maybe they go where the bowls are. If you forget to unload the dishwasher, who cares? But if you can't do that function, that might be a warning sign. Difficulty completing familiar tasks at home or in your office. So driving to a familiar location. We had a gal who was diagnosed because she and her boyfriend used to play a game every day. And it came time to play the game, and she was pretty hostile about it. She didn't want to play the game. She couldn't remember the rules. And she went to her doctor immediately. Number 4, confusion with time or place. Again, I often forget if it's Tuesday, if it's Thursday, but usually I can arrive at that. This is more if I were to, the dentist I've gone to for 20 years, all of a sudden I can't figure out how to get there. Or I do get there and I don't remember getting there. So that is going to be the type of confusion with time and place that really is affecting my daily life. Number 5 is very interesting. We often think of Alzheimer's disease as a memory issue. You just think it's a memory issue. But people who have Alzheimer's, or a warning sign can be trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. It's why driving is so dangerous when people start having these issues, because if you're driving, you've got to look out the front, you've got to look at your rear view mirror, and you have to judge how far you are from that telephone pole, or God forbid, that child. It's also why someone with Alzheimer's, I might have my water, and I think I'm going to put it here, and I'm putting it here, and it's falling to the ground. So again, we don't think of that as associated with dementia. It's why grandma might start showing up with a bunch of bruises on her knees, because grandma can't tell how far she is away from the coffee table. So again, pieces and puzzles that you're putting together for your loved ones, your colleagues, and ultimately for your doctor. Number 5 is really interesting too. People with Alzheimer's disease, often everybody is different. So everyone is going to present different. Their timeline is going to be different. But a lot of people have trouble with contrast. My sister's husband has Alzheimer's disease. He's 52. And I had coffee with her yesterday, and she's very worried about him eating. And I said, hon, your tablecloth is white. Your plates are white. If you put mashed potatoes on those plates, it's not that he's being ornery. He can't see them. So it's that little bit of training with her that's going to change their lives. She's going to change, plate's going to be an ochre color. Tablecloth's going to be different, and then she can plop those mashed potatoes on and maybe put a little chocolate sauce on them, because sometimes your taste starts to go. Number 6, new problems with speaking or writing. A lot of people, they explain it to us like, well, what happens with this symptom is that the Alzheimer's has moved to the part of their brain that controls their language. So they're starting to have trouble. You might notice with your friends, they start having trouble decoding what's coming into them, especially if you talk fast like I do, or if you have long sentences, or you don't have eye contact. So they're having trouble decoding what's coming in, and they're having trouble finding the word to go out. So they're pausing, they can see it hanging out there, or they start making up words like, my arm clock here says it's time to go to lunch. Or I need one of those right sticks. I need a right stick. They can't find the word, they're filling it in. So that's a warning sign. I can't remember names. I remember Sarah's because I've known Sarah for 5 years. But if you told me your name right now, I probably wouldn't retain it in 5 minutes. That's probably not going to interrupt my daily life. But if I can't remember that this is called water, then that's something for you to look at. Maybe write down and talk to your doctor about. Has anybody ever walked into a room and said, honey, I need you to crap. And you can't remember, and you have to go back and retrace your steps, but you get it. People with Alzheimer's typically cannot do that. So again, misplacing things becomes a big problem, especially if you've got clients or someone in a long-term care facility. Lots and lots of people there, and if I'm experiencing dementia and I lose something, what do I think? Immediately. It's been stolen. Go right to the stealing. So it's kind of a red flag. As caregivers, there are ways to deal with that. That's the good part. As caregivers, there are ways to deal with those behaviors. But if that's happening over and over and again with a loved one, it's something to talk to your doctor about. Number 8, decreased or poor judgment. My stepfather, my family would hate me that I'm using them for all my stories, but he walks with a walker. He's got some severe mobility issues, and I noticed that he had ordered some magazines. One was called Nursing Today. He's a social worker, retired. Bodybuilding.com. My stepdad is never going to be a bodybuilder. So he had a telemarketer call, gave a credit card. He's using poor judgment. So that's something that we need to be aware of. We had a client that we worked with who had bad knees. And you know those big jars of glucosamine and chondroitin that you take for your knees at Costco? He had 26 jars in his closet his wife found. Because every time he went to Costco, his judgment was a little clouded and he'd bring another one home. So again, this is where we get into a lot of elder abuse, fraud abuse that we have to look out for. It may be that there's no diagnosis yet. Nobody's watching out for this, and that's a red flag. Number 9, withdrawing from work or social activities. A lot of times people with Alzheimer's, they're not able to jump in and out of a conversation. They can't track conversations. They might be forgetting people's names. And you start noticing that they used to go to every Boise State game there ever was, and now they don't want to go. Or they used to go to church religiously, or to lunch with friends, and now they're isolating. It could be a warning sign that they might know something's happening inside their brain, and they don't want anybody else to know. Or they physically just can't keep up with that hobby. So it's a red flag. And isolation is one of the worst things for your brain. So not only is it a red flag, it's not therapeutic, and we don't want our loved ones to get in that rut. The last one, again, kind of baffles people. Again, Alzheimer's disease, memory problems. But what does your brain control? everything in your body, your emotions, your mood. So oftentimes people with Alzheimer's disease can have really weird mood swings. This is where sometimes couples are getting into it because they're fighting all the time, or husband's always been very pleasant and all of a sudden he's swearing like a sailor. And it may not be what you initially think, marital problems, or he's depressed. It may be that your brain is misfiring. So your brain is like a highway, and then I'm going to wrap it up, Dr. Sai. So your highways, good highways, cars can drive on those highways, no problem. In your brain, memories can travel along those highways, emotions, being able to do all these tasks. But when those roads start breaking up, when your brain starts to misfunction, then those things aren't going to be happening appropriately. So if you have someone, a colleague, again, super personable gal, always gets along, and all of a sudden maybe is combative, it might be a warning sign of something going on in the brain and not just some giant emotional change. So that's my time. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we have lots of materials at the office. That 800 number, you can call there and get materials if you want materials for clients or coworkers. If you want any resources, please reach out to us, and if we can't find it, we can clearinghouse you until we help you find it. So thank you.